something that has been debated upon before by the Supreme Court. And there are some lawyers that think that it's almost a waste of time because the Supreme Court doesn't just give judgments in that manner, especially when it's an issue it has handled before. How hopeful or how optimistic is the legal team of the Labour Party and its presidential candidate?
Thank you. Again, like I said, we are approaching the Supreme Court with literally all our points, all our requests. The Abuja, the FCT position is one of them. The academic qualification of the APC candidate is one of them. The robbery at the pool, one of them. The inability of INEC to stand by their promise, their guidelines that they give to all Nigerians, of which now the government spent over 450 billion naira in procuring equipment. And suddenly, at the last minute, they are saying that it is not necessary again, and the tribunal confirmed. And fact, I was even surprised that instead of reprimanding the INEC, the tribunal was giving them a thumb up throughout. There was no instance of reprimand. But you told all Nigerians what you want to do. I stood by it up to the last minute, and you suddenly changed the goalpost. And the tribunal didn't do anything wrong in that. So when we have this implicit trust that the Supreme Court, then the final arbiter, will do justice to our request, because we will think that the justice was not served.
But then, sorry to interrupt. Okay. This kind of question. You've just said something about INEC not going with its guidelines, which is one of the issues that you raised in court. INEC giving guidelines and not going through by the guidelines. So does it? Did you also request that the court cancels the whole election because the whole election was not conducted following the guidelines? If we're going to go by your case, and then it means that even in the places that you won, it should be cancelled because the results did not come out following INEC guidelines.
Well, our request is very simple. Look at the results that came out, even the one that they agreed. Look at the controversial ones. Adjust them. If there is need for you to do a by-election in those ones, do it and give the proper result. But we are not in any way asking that the election should be cancelled. But we are saying that we won the election. If all those mutilated ones, all those defaced results are removed or maybe removed completely, we are also saying that the candidate of APC is not even qualified to run the election. So he should be removed from the whatever, if there's going to be a by-election, it should be from the two other political parties. We're also saying by the nature of the fact that he took a vice president that is not qualified according to the law, electoral law, that their candidacy should be, should not stand.
All right.
And the law, the constitution says, well, there's going to be a by-election. It has to be from the first two. In this case, if the APC is removed, it has to be with the Labour Party with another party.
Okay.
So that's all we are saying.
Let's get the lawyer's perspective to this. Now, I was trying to get him to clarify on something. If, yes, you just heard him say, one of their prayers is that INEC did not go follow its guidelines in conducting the elections. Would it then be wise to say INEC can go, let's imagine that a by-election was the judgment that came. Would it be wise to say, we would allow for some areas that was good? For instance, I'm asking the areas that the Labour Party won, for instance, or the PDP won. Would you then say, and you know that you are arguing that guidelines were not followed? Shouldn't that mean that the whole election should be cancelled instead of selecting the ones that should go for a by-election and then the numbers you got from the other ones that did not follow guidelines, if we're going to go by the submission you're making in court, should remain? How do you explain that if you're going to look at a constitutional approach to it?
Yeah, there's a possibility of the outcome of election petition that the court or the tribunal can hold that an entire election be cancelled and then fresh election be conducted. And I think in the prayers of the petitioners, I don't know particularly if it's not part of the prayers of the All Progressives Congress, but some of those are the petitioners. They have the alternative prayers that also included the possibility of conduct of a fresh election. And then again, the judges can come up with a decision to the effect that where no candidate was validly returned and declared, right, elected in any election, and particularly if they agreed with one of your prayers, which is one of the constitutional statutory grounds for election petition, that the election was conducted a substantial non-compliance with the law or, of course, in this case, their regulation and guidelines. Then if it's all cases that was the situation, then of course that election will be cancelled.
But it wasn't established that in some areas guidelines were followed and in other areas guidelines were not followed.
Yeah, no, hold on, because the
that
question
was not established.
It has been mentioned. The question about the non-compliance with the guidelines is almost specific. Take, for instance, if it is the case of non-transmission, electronic transmission of results from the polling unit to the IRF, if that's a strong point of any petitioner for the non-compliance ground, then it would mean that anywhere that transmission was done is in compliance.
Okay.
That's the point. So that's why in presenting your election petition and even the courts reviewing the facts before them and the evidence, we see instances where if your complaint, Andrew, this is a very simple and clear thing. The Electoral Act made reference to transmission of election results from the polling unit, directly from the polling unit. I don't want to go as to how the justice found it, as if there was no reference to transmission of election results or even accredited votes.
Did the Electoral Act include electronically transmit results directly from polling units?
Yes, that is provision for introduction of electronic devices in our election. And beyond the Electoral Act, you asked earlier, before we went on a break, that the legal frameworks that make the entire body of laws that regulate election in this country starts with the Constitution. It's not alone. It goes to the Electoral Act, not just these two, including any regulation made by INEC. They are valid, including guidelines.
So why wasn't it
valid?
So then the question would be: did the court wasn't the court aware of this approach to it?
With respect to the justice of the Supreme Court, of the Court of Appeal that sat as judges of the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, I believe they are aware of it, but I don't know how they arrived at that.
All right,
all of this, because it's not just on this presidential election petition. In any matter, I have matters in court today that I'm asking the court to interpret, not just statute, but even regulations that were made pursuant to that statute. And they are valid. It's only, like I said earlier, where the provisions in the regulation are inconsistent. That is to say, the Constitution or the Act is saying one thing, then the regulation is saying a different thing. Then the Act becomes superior. Between Act and Constitution, then the Constitution becomes superior. But when they are saying the same thing, or one is meant to enforce or give effect to the provision of the other, they are both taking consideration.
Let's quickly just one more question for you, Mr. Ifoh. This would like to know, heading to the Supreme Court, is the Labour Party willing to accept whatever judgment comes out of the Supreme Court and move on with governance of the country, whichever way it sways?
Do I have a choice? The Supreme Court is the final arbiter. Whatever thing they say will abide by it. But at least it will enrich the jurisprudence, where everybody will now know where we stand. It's just that, but we sincerely think that the Supreme Court will look into the matter and come up with a position that will be satisfactory to most Nigerians and to enrich our legal jurisprudence, as the lawyers call it.
All right. And then quickly, one more thing. Is the party already looking ahead of 2027?
No, we have not done with 2023. We are not done with 2023 until we conclusively end the 2023 issue before we now begin to talk about any other election.
All right. Obiora Ifoh, thank you very much for joining us on the conversation this morning.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right.
And thanks to the lawyer in the studio.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
You heard that from the national spokesperson of the Labour Party. Now let's get on to the phone lines and get your response. You listen to that conversation and the thoughts. 0817-923-0003, 0817-923-0007. Mr. Ekine, you're also going to clarify for us what you think. Osita Chidoka, former aviation minister, had said, let us have just one step for this election matters. The point of doing the tribunal at appeal and then going to Supreme Court to appeal what the tribunal has done takes a lot of time, resources, and all of that. And he feels we should just do one step. Beyond that, he had also questioned the fact that all of the justices at the tribunal agreed. There was not even one venting voice that said differently from the others. They all were on the same page. And if I heard him correctly, it was almost like the first time, because he had said in the Obasanjo time and the others, there's always like 1 or 2. It was always a 3-2, 4-1. It was, but then everybody agreed, and the argument was, meanwhile, just average Nigerians could look at that and point out a thing or two that they felt wasn't making sense, and he wondered why none of the justices would have pointed any of those things out. We'll come to get your response on that. Let's first go to the phone lines. We'll start with Godfrey and Lelenwo. Godfrey, good morning to you. Straight to the point, please.
Yeah, good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Godfrey. Go ahead.
You see, my point is very clear. After election, there should not be any swearing. Our constitution should be amended in such that there will be no swearing in after election. Whoever has any case, whoever is not satisfied, should go to the court and we'll settle this issue in the court before a winner is pronounced. Once a winner is pronounced, the person has been declared as president and chief commander in chief. The president the president controlling the affairs of the country, and you have somebody in court fighting that president. Will it work? It won't work that way. When after the election, everybody who has any case should go to court and let the court answer whatever issue there is before a candidate is sworn in. That's my take. I think it is simple.
Thank you very much, Godfrey. Muriel is calling from Okrika. Hello, Muriel. Good morning.
Ekine, good morning.
Yeah,
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
It's the Okrika woman. You see, Ekine, what I will not let lawyers do is to confuse me and turn my brain upside down. And when your guest was speaking, especially the one in the studio, he said when the Constitution and the Electoral Act was amended, that they stated that results should be transmitted, but on the election ground there. But it did not state electronically. And he was trying to tell us that if he looks somewhere, it was there. He was trying to, and he also said that INEC is bound by what they said. If INEC later, after they said they should transmit at the police station, and now later came that, okay, they would transmit it electronically. That is an intention. It's an intent. So we cannot hold INEC based on their intent. If tomorrow they come out and say, okay, no, we can no longer do that. We will just transmit anyhow. But let it be that we transmit. So we cannot hold even marriages that are bound in court.
Hello, Muriel.
It's not to talk of an intention on the side of INEC. Now, actually, my question is, Labour Party was trying to make a case for themselves, but you know that PDP is the first runner-up after APC who is the winner. So all these things the Labour Party is doing, I'm curious, Ekine, are they not making a case for the PDP? Because if tomorrow they remove the current president and they want to reinstate anybody, will it not be the PDP who is the first runner-up?
All right.
So I'm curious, and they should their supporters, would they accept this their next move that they are backing out? How do they try to pacify their supporters? Thank you.
All right, we'll respond to that. I think the spokesperson had explained that part of it, but we'll get to it. Temple, good morning.
Morning, the very distinguished Ekine.
Okay, go ahead.
I think, the question you rightly asked, for me, I would say going straight to the Supreme Court would have been the best option. It will save time for us, it will save energy for us, and it will save cost for us, so that the matter will be dealt with once and for all. Because when we talk about a tribunal go to appeal at Supreme Court, they will also review what the previous panel of judges has also looked into, and that will be a delay in justice delivery. Then when we talk about all these litigations, the very distinguished Andrew, you will agree with me, all these amounts because such a person did not mean that particular unit or that particular, electoral, zone. For me, some of them should learn to accept defeat. Because if you ask, they are not even contesting where they won, or they are not even arguing where their party, we are able to declare the winner. But one thing I always appeal, they should respect the rule of law and stop embarrassing the panel of judges. Coming to tell me they are compromised, this and that. What of the electoral act in the transmission of this result? Did the electoral act say it is a must, or did the electoral act provide other alternatives?
Okay, Temple.
The transmission of the result.
Thank you very much. Lawyer would explain.
Thank you.
Mr. Ekine will respond to that. Let's go to Braid. Braid is in Buguma. Braid,
yeah.
Good morning. Yes, go on.
Yes, my major concern is the INEC also having mock election before the main election, and tell every Nigerian that your vote will be transmitted to the IREC. So your vote must be counted. Now, the judges will tell me that in the nick of the election, INEC can come out to say, look, whether you vote or not, we are going to write results and submit, and it's obtainable. And also, the judges will tell me that whatever that happens, like for instance, there is mass slaughter in Buguma, all the people that died must be carried to the court as an evidence. I don't know where such has happened in this world. And also, the judges, with due respect to them, will tell me that the electoral law says that you can contest for Senate and also become a vice president. There is no law that binds it. Well, let the lawyer tell us more about that.
David in Yenagoa. Good morning, David.
Greetings from the city of Yenagoa.
Go ahead.
David West.
Go on.
You say me, Andrew, I have one very serious problem.
Okay.
And that problem is, just like you asked, is Labour Party, will the Labour Party or PDP be ready to accept the verdict of the Supreme Court? And your guest over the phone told you the Supreme Court is the final arbiter. But for me, will they not still come out to say, oh, the learned justices of the Supreme Court, they were not the ones that wrote the judgment, that somebody else from outside? Can you imagine how people think in this country? That my Lord, the justices of the Court of Appeal, who sat on that tribunal, they are not the ones that wrote their judgments themselves. That is an insult to the judiciary and to my Lord, the justices, for people to even conjecture. So I am of the view that, in fact, no any other strange decision will come out from the Supreme Court. Both the Labour Party and the PDP did not prepare their brief very well. Look at the issues they formulated for determination. Why won't they somersault? When you left substantial non-compliance, you are looking for extraneous things, you are going to America to look for evidence, you are going to do this. No. Election petitions are not like every other case.
All right, David, thank you. But we have to move on there and take some messages on Facebook. I think we're wasting time conducting elections in this country. Can the court always tell us who won an election after people sacrificed their money, time and energy? The court should conduct elections and let INEC be scrapped. Tammy Doffin. Owolabi Adebayo says, what are they optimistic of? I don't think they have any tangible point to prove at the Supreme Court. Miebaka says the Electoral Act should be amended in a way that all court cases should be decided before the swearing in. That will limit influence of incumbency on the judiciary. Progress says all of them take bribe. Courts in Nigeria are for businesses and politicians now, not for anything good. Left for me, I would have asked the politicians and laws to do their elections as they already know the winners of elections before the public knows them. We'll go on to WhatsApp and take a few before my guest wrap things up with his response to some of the questions that you raised. And some of the questions, oh goodness me, I haven't okay. All right, let's see. On WhatsApp, quite a few people need you to respond to. Someone says, good morning. The man in your studio, is he a Labour Party member? He's not. He's a human rights lawyer as well. Are you a Labour Party member? Let me not speak on your behalf. Are you a member of the Labour Party?
Not of any party. All right. Not of any party.
Good morning. This one says, it will not be proper to take electoral cases directly to the Supreme Court because the role of the Supreme Court is to look at what the tribunal has done and correct it if there was a wrong in the judgment. Andrew, I told you what to do now. I said go to Leighton Barry. Check me out on Facebook and send me a message there. I can't be calling out number on radio. This one says, what did the Supreme Court say in Adeleke vs. Oyetola on IREV and the Federal High Court on INEC having the powers to decide the manner of conducting elections, which the same Labour Party is yet to appeal that judgment? Tony Ifoh from Port Harcourt. We have less than 2 minutes. Mr. Ekine, the Electoral Act, did it specifically state, as amended, that INEC must transmit election results from polling units electronically?
Now, that you when you ask a question in this manner, for a lawyer or even a judge, statutes are interpreted based on different.
Well, what is the letter of the law in this particular case?
Section 60, I think 64 or thereabout of the Constitution makes reference to transmission, and this will give me an opportunity to also explain what even the court, the Court of Appeal, the justice in their judgment made reference or attempted to distinguish between transfer and transmission. Like one of the callers called, and I was like, "Oh, lawyers are." It's not so.
So the mention of transmission would mean electronic.
There's transmission in the Electoral Act. There is electronic device, the Electoral Act. Then move away from the Electoral Act. This is the point we make, so that nobody should. For me, it is expounding understanding of our legislations and our Constitution that we do. Now, move away from the Electoral Act if you are confused about the provision of the Electoral Act. What did INEC say in their guideline and their regulation?
Does that guideline hold in court?
It does. I have said so several times, and anybody should challenge me. That is not correct. Why did they make regulations? They made regulations to further expand the provisions of the Electoral Act, and they made reference particularly to the use of electronic device for transmission of results, an accredited number of voters
Ekine,
from unit direct to their IREV. Then today you say it's a waste.
Thank you for your time. My name is Ifoh Andrew.
He done of trading himself. James,